All right, Nick, one of our favorite teams to talk about here, the Pittsburgh Steelers, off to a bit of a rocky start. They're 1-2, and we're kind of at a point with Pittsburgh. You've seen Trubisky play through 3 games now, and it hasn't been that impressive. And it's a now or never moment. And we have an article that we're going to get into, kind of about that. And I have some thoughts on it. I know you have some thoughts on it as well. But Pittsburgh, tough game against the Browns last week. Obviously, TJ Watt is out on defense side of the ball. Offense hasn't really been clicking, but there have been some bright spots. So let us know in the comments below, who are the bright spots that you have seen? Who's shown some flashes on offense and defense? I know Deontay Johnson has been great. Minka Fitzpatrick has been electric. Cam Hayward, always a great guy to watch out there. So let us know in the comments below who have been some bright spots on this team early on in the season. It is early on, so no need to panic quite yet. But Nick, what do we have on the Steelers?
Yeah, so Noah Strakebane, hope that's how you pronounce his name, and on allsteelers.com, part of Fan Nation, had this column. And I think it speaks to a lot of what's going on in Steeler fandom right now, what you're seeing by a lot of people in the media as well. So I'll just read a little bit from the column here. He says, Pittsburgh Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin said it's a definite no about making a change at quarterback this week, but after a long weekend, it might have sunk in that this is the best time to do so. The Steelers aren't winning football games with Mitch Trubisky behind center. Pittsburgh is 1-2, heading back home to host the New York Jets. And the Steelers have scored just 4 touchdowns through their offense in 3 weeks and has watched their defense deteriorate due to overuse early in the season. The Steelers, talking about Kenny Pickett here, don't want to rush Pickett onto the field, which is why the quarterback competition was never a real one to begin with. But they want to save the season and maybe save Pickett's early success. Holding off on a move is the worst idea. Pittsburgh will stay at home this week and host the Jets. From there, life becomes even more difficult than it's already been, heading to Buffalo. They host Tampa Bay and then Miami and the Eagles. The column finishes off by saying, getting a confidence boost with a win over the Jets is a must for a rookie quarterback. All right, I'm going to stop him right there, Mize, because that's what you're hearing a lot from people in Steeler media right now is, hey, listen, now is this time to start or at least play Kenny Pickett significantly against a mediocre Jets team so you can kind of get a little momentum before that brutal part of the schedule. I disagree with that, and here's why. So there's 2 kind of realms of thinking in terms of running a football team. There's strategic thinking and there's tactic thinking. Strategic thinking is long-term, right? That's getting good at quarterback, getting the right head coach, things like that, salary cap management. And then there's tactical thinking, which is winning the game today. As we saw, the Pittsburgh Steelers were thinking strategically and tactically early in the season, focused more on tactically. They drafted Kenny Pickett, but they played Mitch Trubisky, who gave them, the way they thought, the best chance to win early on. After we're through 3 games, it is clear that's not the case. So you don't play Kenny Pickett now. I agree with the column that now is the time to play Kenny Pickett, but you don't play him now because you want to get him experience before a tough part of the schedule. You play him now because he gives you just as good a chance to win, if not more, than Mitch Trubisky. Because we've seen it for the last 3 weeks. This offense is stagnant under Trubisky, and there's no reason for it to be so with the weapons they have with Pickens, Deontay Johnson, Freiermuth, Najee Harris. Like, this is a talented roster that should be able to do a whole lot more on offense than what they're doing. And sticking with Trubisky at this point is going to send a message to the locker room, to the entire organization, that they are potentially threatening their offensive success the rest of the year when they have another guy waiting in the wings who is probably just as good, couldn't be worse, and has a chance to be a lot better.
Yeah, Nick. And when I look at the schedule, obviously, okay, I'll give the Jets what they're worth. They have a decent front four, so that can be kind of scary. But outside of that, this is a secondary, has some players, but it's been liable to get torched a little bit through the season. You've seen guys put up some good numbers on the Jets. Obviously, I think Lamar Jackson back that first week had a pretty strong performance against them. But if you don't start him now, when do you start him? Do you start him versus the Bills? No, that'd be a nightmare for a young rookie quarterback to start against the Bills. You start him against the Bucks. No, that would also be a nightmare. That's a really strong defense as well. The Dolphins, you want him to go into a shootout versus the Dolphins early on in his career. Have him to have to keep up with Tua, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. And then the Dolphins has a pretty strong defense as well. Holland's a heck of a corner. That's a team that you don't want him to start against. The Eagles are red hot. The Saints have a killer defense. The Bengals, I think by the time the season rolls around to week 11, they're going to get it together, and that's a team that's tough to shoot out against as well. There's the best time, if he doesn't start now, is week 12, and your season's over by that point. If you have Trubisky play all the way through week 12, I don't think you're making the playoffs. So, like you said, this is the best time for Pickett to start, and he doesn't take you back at all. He gives you just as good a chance to win, if not better, like you said, than Mitch Trubisky. So I don't. If you don't start Pickett now, don't start him for the whole season. You take the season as a loss. Maybe you get a good draft pick out of it or something like that. And then start him next year. Maybe get him another offensive lineman. The offensive line has been moving in a solid direction, though. There's been improvement. It's obviously not top tier, but there's been some improvement. So if you don't start him now, just don't start him. And that's what I take from it.
Well, I disagree a little bit because I think what we're seeing from Trubisky is that he's limited in this offense. And I know there's a lot of blame that's going on Matt Canada right now, but I think we're seeing it more from the quarterback position. And I think a lot of what we're seeing is the inability for Trubisky to convert third downs to sustain drives. And I think that's the big problem with this offense right now. If you look at their time of possession, which you look at the Steelers, right? Time of possession, how important is it? It kind of tells me how much they're able to stay on the field. Against Cleveland, they were out time of possession. They only had 23 minutes. The Browns had 36. Against the Patriots, they only had 26 minutes. Against the Bengals, they only had 26 minutes. And remember, that was an overtime game. That was a really late game. That was a 70-minute football game. So they got absolutely ball controlled the heck out of them their first 3 games of the season. And that's not because their defense hasn't played at a high level. It has. It's the fact they're not converting third downs. And quarterback is the kind of the difference maker on third downs, especially when you have these playmakers. So getting a guy like Pickett in there to see if he can, kind of utilize some of these guys, I think is what you need. Because you talk about going up against those better offenses in the middle part of the season coming up. You need to keep those offenses off the field. You need to sustain drives. And right now, the way Trubisky is going, they're not going to be able to do it. So that's why I think while now is a good time, it's not a good time because they're playing the Jets. It's a good time because they need to make the move.